The alert hit the Imperial fleet like a sudden punch to the chest. Deep inside the command center of Outpost Helion, a sharp alarm cut through the calm background noise, and dozens of officers froze for half a second. The bright red words flashing on the main tactical screen made every person feel the air grow heavier. Unidentified ship detected, no origin, no data. Even worse, the motion graph beneath those words showed a speed that made no sense at all. The object was not only fast, it was impossibly fast, far beyond anything in the Empire's long list of known engines or weapons platforms. For a moment, nobody spoke. They only stared. The system kept pinging in warning tones, each one louder than the last. Commander Rulveros stepped forward, his boots echoing on the metal floor. He was a calm leader, the kind of officer who never raised his voice unless the situation demanded it. But now, when he looked at the screen, his jaw tightened. The object moved like a streak of white fire across space, cutting through long-range sensor nets as if the Empire's finest technology barely existed. He asked the sensor chief for basic data, mass, heat signature, signal noise, any signal at all. But the chief only shook his head. The ship had no transponder code, no drive trail, no energy pattern that matched any known civilization. It was like it came from nowhere, leaving no trace behind. Only the massive speed proved it was real. The outpost crew moved quickly, filling the air with short, rushed voices. Officers exchanged worried glances while hands flew across touch panels. The Empire had enemies, yes, but even their strongest rivals did not have this kind of power. If this thing belonged to a hostile species, then the Empire might be facing a threat beyond anything it had ever seen. If it belonged to no species at all, then the situation might be even worse. The mysterious ship was still far away but closing the distance with alarming speed. Some experts said it would take hours for it to reach Imperial territory. That estimate changed within seconds. The new projection showed minutes. The temperature inside the command center felt higher now, as if the room itself knew danger was coming. Roll ordered the team to magnify the object. A grainy, shaky image appeared. It showed a long, dark shape, almost like a spear aimed at the Empire's heart. No windows, no visible engines, no markings. The outer hull seemed to swallow light instead of reflecting it. A young cadet whispered that it looked like a ghost ship. No one disagreed. The outpost's internal lights flickered for a moment, caused by the intense power being redirected to the scanners as they tried to get a clearer view. Yet even with maximum power, the image remained blurry, as though something interfered with the signal on purpose. The ship seemed to resist being observed. Roll thought carefully. He had seen many strange things in his long military life, but this was the first time he felt something like cold fear. He gave orders to alert the nearest battleship group and to prepare full defensive shields. Officers moved with more urgency, tapping commands and opening communication channels. Long-range guns powered up. Shield generators hummed with deep mechanical energy, filling the room with a low vibration. If the ship was hostile, they would meet it prepared. But everyone also understood a silent truth. If this thing wanted to destroy them, their defenses might not be enough. The ship crossed another sensor line and suddenly changed direction with a sharp movement that broke every known rule of physics. It did not slow down. It did not curve. It simply shifted, instantly, like a star blinking to a new position. Gasps filled the room. Some officers backed away from the screen with shock on their faces. One tech officer shouted that the object's acceleration levels matched nothing in the database. Not even theoretical models predicted such agility. It was like watching a giant breakdance across the void. Roll tried to understand the pattern of its movement. It wasn't attacking any targets. It wasn't broadcasting a threat. It wasn't even attempting communication. It behaved more like something searching for something, or scanning the environment in its own way. Roll felt a strange, uncomfortable idea rise in his mind. Maybe this ship did not care about them at all. Maybe it didn't see the Empire as worth noticing. The thought was more terrifying than the idea of an attack. Suddenly, the screen flashed again. A new row of text appeared, object scanning outpost. Unknown signal entering systems. The lights dimmed for a second. Officers shouted warnings and rushed to disconnect certain data lines, but the signal kept slipping through digital barriers like water through fingers. Computer cores heated up. Screens flickered. A deep rumble passed through the station. It felt as though the unknown ship was inside their machines, inside their firewalls, inside their sensors, studying them. Then, without warning, the signal stopped. Everything went silent. The ship, still a dark blur on the screen, halted its scan. It hovered in deep space, motionless but full of silent pressure, like a predator staring at prey. Everyone in the command center held their breath, waiting for what would happen next. A single, soft beat broke the silence. "The object is slowing," said the sensor chief. "It is approaching us directly. At controlled speed this time." The room went cold. Roll raised his voice at last. "Prepare for first contact. Whether it is friendly or not, we will face it." The unidentified ship moved with slow, steady purpose now, as if it had finally decided to reveal itself. Every sensor on Outpost Helion focused on it, feeding data into glowing consoles. Officers reported numbers in quick, tense voices, but none of the information helped anyone feel calmer. The ship's speed had dropped, yes, but its control was still unnatural. No drift. No wobble. Not even the smallest vibration. It glided toward the outpost like a silent blade through water. Commander Rulveros watched from the center platform, eyes locked on the long, dark shape approaching on the main display. He tried to keep his breathing calm, but the weight in his chest felt heavier with every passing second. The Empire had prepared for war with known enemies, yet this situation was different. They had no idea if the unknown ship carried weapons, life forms, or something far stranger. Rul ordered all weapons to stand by, charged but not fired. They could not risk provoking a force they did not understand. The bridge atmosphere turned tense and quiet. No one wanted to speak unless absolutely necessary. Even the usual hum of machines seemed softer, as if the outpost was holding its breath too. Outside, the cold dark of space stretched around them, endless and silent, while the mysterious ship closed in. Crew members who had been calm earlier now exchanged worried looks. A few kept glancing toward emergency escape routes, even though they knew escape pods would be pointless. Nothing could outrun a ship like that. As it reached visual range, the cameras focused on its surface. Everyone leaned forward, hoping for clues. The hull was smooth and black, with no seams or panels visible. No engines glowed. No lights blinked. It did not look built, it looked grown, like something shaped by strange forces rather than manufactured. The way it absorbed light made its edges hard to see. The ship seemed to erase the space around it. One young officer said it looked like a shadow pretending to be metal. Rul asked for an estimate on its size. The answer surprised him. The ship was only slightly larger than a heavy fighter. For something that fast and strange, many expected a massive dreadnought or a huge alien cruiser. But this was small, almost like a scout craft or a probe. The fact that something so tiny moved with such impossible power made the unease in the room even stronger. The ship stopped about 5 kilometers from the outpost. It stayed motionless, hanging in the void. The sudden stillness made every nerve in Rul's body tense. He ordered communications officers to attempt contact. "Unknown vessel, this is Outpost Helion of the Imperial Fleet. Identify yourself." His voice echoed through the broadcast channels, sent in all common languages of the region. The outpost waited. No answer came. "Send again," Rul ordered. They did. Still nothing. The silence felt unnatural now, like the ship was listening but choosing not to speak. Several officers whispered theories. Maybe the crew was dead, maybe the ship was automated, maybe it carried some kind of AI far beyond human understanding. But the strangest possibility, the one no one dared say out loud, was that this ship came from outside known reality. Some old legends mentioned things that lived in the spaces between galaxies, ancient forces that did not think like any species. Could this ship be one of them? Energy spike. A sensor officer shouted. The lights brightened a little as the ship emitted a weak, thin beam of pale light. It did not hit the outpost, instead it spread across space like a wide scan. The beam passed over the outpost slowly. Screens inside the command center reacted at once. The air filled with warning tones. Data streams exploded across monitors. But nothing harmful happened. The ship seemed to be examining them, much more carefully than before. A low trembling ran through the outpost's outer hull, as if the unknown signal touched the metal directly. Rul steadied himself on the railing. He felt something strange, not fear, but pressure, like someone was staring into his thoughts. He shook it off quickly. He had a job to do. He ordered defenses to maximum readiness, though he knew they would not matter if the ship attacked. The beam shut off. The ship remained still for a long moment. Then the tactical screens flashed again. "Commander," said the sensor chief slowly, "the ship is broadcasting. Signals now. But they're not words. They are patterns. Rhythms. Almost like heartbeats? The pattern filled the monitors, a repeating pulse, slow at first, then faster. It reminded Rill of a coded message, but not one meant for machines. The rhythm felt alive. Some officers shivered without understanding why. Others said it made them think of warning drums used in ancient battles. The pulse grew louder through the speakers, a deep thump that everyone felt in their chest. Then, suddenly, the sound cut off. The unknown ship moved again, but not toward the outpost this time. It turned sharply, pointing toward deep Imperial space. Its engines still did not glow, but its speed climbed fast. "It's heading inward," an officer said. "It's going deeper into our territory." Rill's blood ran cold. "Track it," he ordered. "And warn every fleet in range. Whatever it wants. It's not done." The ship vanished into the dark like a phantom, leaving a silent trail of fear behind. The unknown ship darted deeper into Imperial territory like a silent arrow, leaving Outpost Helion behind. Commander Rill watched its course on the big screen, feeling a mix of dread and confusion grow in his chest. The ship moved with such perfect control that it looked less like a machine and more like a living creature following a scent. It didn't slow, didn't turn, didn't hesitate. It shot across the stars as if it already knew its target. The outpost stayed on high alert, with officers shouting updates and trying to keep up with the impossible speed of the intruder. But Rill noticed something strange as he studied the path. The ship was not heading toward a major city or military stronghold. It wasn't aiming for a research station or supply hub. It was flying toward a quiet, unimportant sector, a region with only a few old satellite stations and one small colony world. There was nothing there worth attacking. No weapons, no secrets, no treasures. Just normal people living simple lives. Rill felt a cold shiver crawl up his back. If the unknown ship came to harm them, the Empire would have no time to defend those civilians. But if it came for another purpose, then what purpose could possibly exist in such a plain and empty region? He straightened and ordered his team to send warnings to every ship within 3 systems. The messages contained everything they knew: speed, shape, behavior, and the strange heartbeat-like pulse it broadcasted. Many fleet captains replied in confusion. Some asked if the alert was a joke, because the reported numbers made no sense. Others hesitated, unsure whether to believe the outpost. But as they checked their own sensors, they began to see the same thing: a dark shape cutting across the stars like a blade through cloth. Meanwhile, the unknown ship continued its journey. It avoided patrol routes and heavy scanners, slipping through sensor nets as if it could predict where all detection systems were placed. Any probe sent after it lost the target within seconds. It behaved like something familiar with the Empire's technology, even though no record showed anything like it existing before. Rill wondered if the ship had mapped their systems during the earlier scan. The idea made his stomach tighten. A comms officer reported that another outpost, Helion's closest neighbor, had also detected the ship. But by the time their guns prepared to fire, the object had already passed them, moving too fast to lock onto. That outpost also received the strange heartbeat pulse before the ship vanished. Rill listened to the report with growing concern. The ship was not attacking anyone. It was scanning them, sending pulses, and then leaving. No weapons fired. No shields raised. No threats sent. It was like it was walking through their territory, examining everything it found. But for what? Some officers whispered theories. Maybe it searched for a specific energy signal. Maybe it hunted a lost artifact. Maybe it was looking for someone, or something, that existed inside Imperial borders. A few officers wondered if this craft belonged to a species trying to measure humanity's strength. And some feared a darker idea: maybe the ship wasn't alone. Maybe it was a scout for a much larger force hidden far beyond the Empire's reach. The air inside the command center felt heavy, thick with tension and fear. The lights flickered once, as if reacting to the pressure building between the unknown ship's journey and the human minds trying to understand it. Rill remained silent for a long time, thinking deeply. He wasn't the kind of man to let fear cloud his judgment, but this situation tested even his strongest confidence. Finally he spoke, his voice steady but stern. "We will follow it." The room fell quiet as officers turned to him with wide eyes. Following the unknown ship meant pushing their engines and sensors far beyond safe limits. It meant entering territory with no backup and no guarantee of survival. But Rill knew they needed answers. If the Empire didn't understand this threat, they would be helpless when it finally revealed its true nature. A scout flotilla was prepared within minutes. Small but fast ships, equipped with advanced tracking sensors. They launched into space, their engines glowing as they chased the impossible target. Rill took command of the lead ship. He wanted to see this situation with his own eyes, not from behind a screen. Space blurred around them as the flotilla moved at full power. The unknown ship's trail was faint, almost invisible, but the sensors could still detect the strange energy left behind, thin waves like ripples from a stone dropped into water. These energy traces felt old, older than anything the Empire had studied. That detail disturbed Rill more than he expected. Hours passed as they followed the trail. The dark ship never slowed. And as they traveled, the space around them grew quieter. Radio traffic died out. Civilian ships became rare. Stars seemed more distant. The flotilla was crossing into the lonely edge of Imperial territory. Then, without warning, the sensors spiked. Contact. A tech officer shouted. We have visual. The unknown ship appeared on the display again, but this time it was not alone. It hovered beside a small, isolated moon with a thin atmosphere. And on the surface of that moon, something waited. A shape half buried in dust and rock. Something large. Something ancient. Something that seemed to call to the dark ship like a beacon. The unknown craft slowed and lowered itself toward the surface, as if returning home. Rill stared at the screen, heart pounding. What is that? He whispered. None of his officers answered. Because none of them had words for what lay waiting on that silent moon. The flotilla held its position in orbit, keeping a safe distance from the small moon below. The unknown ship hovered only a few hundred meters above the dusty surface, almost motionless, glowing faintly with that same strange, pulsing rhythm. It seemed to wait for something, or maybe to awaken whatever lay buried beneath the gray rock. Commander Rill stood at the front of the bridge, his eyes fixed on the screen. The shape hidden in the moon's surface was clearer now, tall, curved structures sticking out from the dust like old bones. The more the camera zoomed in, the more it looked like a massive and ancient ship half buried by time. No one on the flotilla had ever seen anything like it. The ruins were too smooth, too seamless, and far too large to belong to any Empire design. The ship, if it was a ship at all, looked like it had been sitting there for centuries, maybe longer. Rill sensed that whatever was hidden there was not just old, but ancient in a way that made human history seem young. The unknown craft drifted slowly around the ruins, releasing tiny sparks of white light that floated down toward the half-buried structure. The sparks sank into the dust, disappearing like droplets into water. Officers on the bridge spoke in low, nervous voices. Some believed the smaller ship was trying to wake the object buried on the moon. Others wondered if it was scanning the wreck for survivors or technology. But Rill had a different feeling, a strange and unsettling one. The small ship seemed to behave almost respectfully, as if the ancient structure was something sacred. A warning tone broke the tension. Energy surged from the moon, an officer reported. It's coming from the buried structure. Rill tightened his jaw. Magnify it. The screen zoomed in. At first, nothing seemed different. Then, slowly, faint lines of pale blue light began to glow across the surface of the half-buried giant. Dust shifted as the lines brightened, forming patterns that looked almost like symbols. The light moved like veins carrying energy to every part of the structure. A ripple passed through the moon's surface, gentle but powerful. The officers stared as the ancient ship awakened. Massive plates of metal lifted themselves from the dust, shaking free centuries of moon rock. More pale blue light spread across the surface, revealing smooth, curved shapes that made the small unknown ship look tiny in comparison. Rill felt the hair on his arms rise. They were not witnessing a discovery. They were witnessing a reactivation. The ancient ship released a deep vibration, one that traveled through the flotilla's hull and settled in every person's bones. It didn't sound like a machine. It sounded like something alive taking its first breath after a long sleep. The unknown ship responded by emitting its own pulse, faster and stronger, as if greeting an old master. What is happening? A young officer whispered. Rill had no answer. Another surge hit the sensors. This time it came from the ancient ship, not the smaller one. The giant vessel was powering up quickly, far too quickly for something that had been dormant for so long. If it continued at this rate, its energy output would reach dangerous levels. Commander, said the sensor chief, voice tight with concern, that structure. It's generating energy levels on par with a dreadnought. No, higher than that. Much higher. They watched as the massive ship finally broke free from the moon's surface, lifting itself with no visible engines. Dust exploded upward in a giant cloud. Tremors shook the moon, sending cracks across its surface. The smaller unknown ship drifted alongside it like a loyal guardian. Rill felt something he rarely felt, true fear. Not fear of battle, but fear of something far beyond human understanding. He ordered the flotilla to step back, increasing distance while keeping sensors locked on the two ships. But even moving away did nothing to lessen the feeling that they were standing too close to something that should have remained lost. A sudden burst of light came from the ancient ship. The flotilla's shields flickered. Lights dimmed as systems struggled to stabilize. A few officers stumbled, holding onto their stations. Was that a weapon? Someone shouted. No impact, the tech officer replied quickly. It didn't hit us. It scanned us. Rill exhaled shakily. Another scan. Another strange, silent examination. But this scan felt different. Deeper. More intrusive. Then, unexpectedly, a transmission came through. The speakers crackled with noise, low, heavy sounds, like distant thunder. No words, no language. But the tone carried weight, pressure, and something that felt like recognition. The unknown ship rotated to face the flotilla directly. Its hull glowed faintly with blue reflections from the giant vessel behind it. The small ship released a short pulse, one Rill recognized from earlier. That same heartbeat-like rhythm. But this time, the rhythm was faster, stronger, and aimed directly at them. The giant ancient ship responded with a slow, powerful pulse of its own. The two pulses merged. And a moment later, the unknown ship launched forward, straight toward the flotilla. Rill grabbed the railing. Evasive maneuvers. Now. The flotilla scrambled to move out of its path, alarms screaming across every deck. The unknown ship flew past them at incredible speed, but before it vanished, it released a second pulse. This one carried a message. A warning. A countdown. And something far more terrifying. Coordinates. Coordinates pointing deeper into human space. The bridge fell into stunned silence as the coordinates appeared on the main display. They glowed in sharp white numbers, cold and threatening, hovering above the star map like a warning written in fire. Commander Rill stared at them, unable to look away. The unknown ship had sent many strange signals, but this was the first clear message. A set of coordinates. A location deep inside human space. A place with no military importance, no advanced research base, nothing strategic at all. Yet the message felt urgent, almost like a countdown to something the Empire was not ready for. The flotilla drifted in tense quiet as officers struggled to process what they had seen. Some whispered that the ship was guiding them. Others said it was luring them into a trap. A few suggested the coordinates pointed to something dangerous that humans had missed. Rill listened to all of it without speaking. He knew speculation would not help them now. What mattered was understanding the purpose of this strange signal. Before he could issue new orders, the screen flashed again. The ancient giant ship, still hovering above the moon, began to shift its massive structure. Pale blue lights pulsed along its hull like veins filling with energy. A deep vibration shook space around it. Dust clouds drifted away, pushed by invisible force. The unknown smaller ship circled it, making tight, perfect loops, almost like it was excited. Commander, the sensor chief said quietly, energy output from the large vessel is rising again. Level? Dangerous, the chief replied. Possibly catastrophic. Rill felt the air grow heavier. The large ship was not simply waking up. It was preparing for something. Maybe travel. Maybe combat. Maybe something far beyond human understanding. He ordered the flotilla to increase distance. Engines roared softly as the ships pulled back, watching from a safer, yet still far too close, position. The ancient structure released a sudden pulse that rolled across space like thunder. The flotilla's shields shook violently. Officers grabbed consoles to stay upright. Lights flickered. The pulse carried no heat, no kinetic force, but it felt heavy, like a wave pressing against human minds. It was as if the ship had spoken without using words. As soon as the pulse faded, the smaller unknown ship shot upward in a straight line, moving faster than even earlier. It left behind a short burst of crackling energy, then vanished into deep space once more, heading toward the same coordinates it had transmitted. Rill watched the tiny glowing trail fade away. He felt pressure building in his chest. The Empire needed answers, and fast. He ordered the flotilla to begin analysis of the coordinates. Multiple officers worked quickly, running scans and cross-checking star records. Within minutes, Information appeared. The coordinates pointed to a remote human colony known as Anares 4, a quiet agricultural world with a small population, famous for clean water, wide plains, and nothing else. An older officer frowned. Why would something like that ship care about a farm world? Rill didn't answer. He felt a sense of dread forming inside him, a feeling that something important was buried in that quiet place, something the Empire had overlooked for years. The flotilla kept watching the ancient ship. It continued to hum with energy, glowing brighter with every pulse. Suddenly, a new reading appeared, strong gravity distortion, like the beginning of a jump. But this was no normal jump. It looked unstable. Wild. Almost violent. "Commander," the tech officer shouted, "it's powering a jump drive of completely unknown design. If it completes the jump, the entire moon might collapse from the strain." Rill hesitated. This could be a once-in-history moment. Seeing a ship older than any Empire record performing a jump with technology beyond anything humans understood. But it could also be deadly. That much power could tear a hole through space and take the flotilla with it. "Pull back farther," he ordered. "Monitor from extreme range." The flotilla engines burned hot as the small ships retreated. Rill kept his gaze fixed on the ancient vessel. The blue veins of light brightened until the entire structure glowed. Space around it bent like rippling glass. The ship grew sharper in some places and blurry in others, as if parts of it existed in two places at once. Then the giant ship emitted a final, earth-shaking pulse. Space folded. And in a single blinding moment, the massive ancient ship vanished completely. No explosion. No debris. No trace. Just an echo of energy drifting through the void. The bridge fell silent again. Everyone stared at the empty spot where the enormous ship had been. Rill felt a strange emptiness too, as if something enormous had just stepped out of the universe. After a long minute, he straightened and spoke firmly. "Set course for the coordinates." Officers turned toward him in shock. "Commander, you want us to go after it?" "Yes," Rill said. "We cannot ignore a warning." Or whatever that was. His voice softened, but only a little. "If that ancient ship and the scout craft are heading to a human world, we need to understand why." The flotilla prepared for the jump. Engines charged, lights dimmed, and the tension inside the ship thickened like fog. Everyone felt the weight of the unknown pressing against them. Behind them lay an ancient mystery awakening. Ahead of them lay a human colony that might be in danger, or might be part of something far more complicated. As the ship's engines reached full power, Rill whispered to himself, not loud enough for anyone else to hear. "Humanity must be ready." And the flotilla jumped toward Anares 4. The flotilla arrived at Anares 4 in a burst of bright light, dropping out of jump space with a soft shudder that ran through the hulls. Commander Rill stood at the front of the bridge as the blue and green planet filled the main display. Anares 4 looked peaceful from orbit, wide plains, slow rivers, scattered towns, nothing unusual. But Rill felt a tightness in his chest. Peaceful things could hide dangerous secrets. The bridge lights dimmed as sensor teams scanned every inch of the world. Reports came in quickly, one after another. No strange signals. No enemy ships. No signs of distress. The colony's communication network was quiet, following its usual daily schedule. Farmers moved across fields. Water collectors ran. Children played in open parks. Everything looked normal. But the unknown ship, moving faster than any vessel in the Empire, was nowhere in sight. Rill frowned. "It arrived before we did. It has to be down there somewhere." The sensor chief ran the scans again, this time deeper. Minutes passed. The tension built. People held their breath. Finally, the chief spoke, his voice uneasy. "Commander, I found something." Everyone turned. "There is a small energy fluctuation on the northern continent," he said. "It is weak. Very weak. Almost like a heartbeat." The word made the bridge fall silent. "Location?" Rill asked. A star dot blinked on the screen. It pointed to a remote valley far from the main colony. A quiet place with no towns, no farms, just forest and grasslands. At first glance, nothing important. "Send a drone," Rill ordered. A small probe launched from the flotilla, streaking toward the planet. As it entered the atmosphere, its cameras activated, sending live images back to the bridge. Thick clouds rushed past. Forests came into view. Mountains rose like jagged teeth. The drone flew deeper until it reached the marked valley. Everyone leaned closer. The valley looked ordinary, trees moving in the wind, a stream cutting across the land, rocks scattered around. But then the drone found something strange near the edge of a cliff. A set of markings carved deep into the stone. Smooth. Complex. Faintly glowing blue. Everyone on the bridge froze. The markings looked nearly identical to the patterns on the ancient ship buried in the moon. Ro felt his heart pound. Is it active? Minimal energy, the sensor chief answered. Dormant. But not dead. The drone pushed forward. The cliff markings formed a circle, wide and ancient, half covered by plants. Then the drone found more, pieces of dark metal buried under the soil. Sharp, curved shapes. Blue veins, like the ones they had seen on the moon. Another ship, one officer whispered. No, Will said softly. Not a ship. A part of something bigger. Before they could examine the structure more closely, the drone's camera glitched, lines of static cutting across the screen. Interference. The tech officer called out. Something is blocking the signal. The officers watched as the drone's feed jerked and flickered. Trees blurred, rocks stretched like shadows. And then the screen went completely black. Roll exhaled slowly. The unknown ship is here. He knew it without proof. Something down there wanted to stay hidden. He opened a communication channel to the colony below. The governor of Anair's 4 appeared on screen, a middle-aged woman wearing a simple uniform. She looked tired and confused. Commander Rull, she said. We received your emergency message, but there have been no attacks. No threats. Nothing unusual. What exactly is happening? Rull explained the situation carefully but truthfully, unknown ship, ancient structure, possible danger. The governor's expression changed from confusion to fear. You think something is under our soil? Something alien? Yes. Do we need to evacuate? Rull paused. He did not want to panic the colony. But he could not lie. Not yet. But keep your people indoors until we finish investigating. The governor nodded shakily and closed the channel. The bridge crew worked fast. Rull ordered a landing team to prepare. He would lead the mission himself. He refused to watch this from orbit. If danger was coming to human space, he would face it on the ground. The landing craft descended through clouds, shaking slightly as wind gusted around it. Rull stood with a squad of soldiers beside him, armored and armed, their faces tense. The forest below looked calm, almost too calm, as if the land itself waited for them. The craft touched down on a flat area near the valley. The ramp lowered with a slow hiss. The air smelled of wet earth and growing plants. Birds sang somewhere in the trees. Too peaceful. The squad moved carefully, weapons ready. Rull led them toward the cliff. When they reached the glowing markings, the soldiers whispered under their breath. The blue patterns pulsed softly, almost like breathing. Rull placed a gloved hand against the stone. It felt warm. Suddenly, the ground trembled. Leaves shook, pebbles rolled down the cliffside. Then, without warning, the trees ahead parted, pushed aside by an invisible force. A shape appeared in the shadows. Dark. Smooth. Floating above the ground. The unknown ship. It hovered in silence, only meters away, watching them like a predator choosing its moment. The soldiers raised their weapons in fear. Hold, Rull shouted. The ship pulsed once, soft, but powerful. The cliff markings responded with the same pulse. Then the ground split open, revealing a deep chamber filled with blue light. Rull's heart froze. The unknown ship had not come here to attack. It had come to open something. Something humans were never meant to find. The ground split wider as blue light spilled upward, painting the trees and soldiers with an otherworldly glow. Dust drifted like smoke rising from a cold fire. The unknown ship hovered quietly above the opening, its dark hull turning slightly as if urging Rull and his team to look inside. Commander Rull stared into the newly revealed chamber. The walls were smooth stone, carved with the same symbols found on the moon. In the center stood a tall, pillar-like structure made from the same dark metal as the ancient ship. Blue lines ran across its surface in swirling patterns, pulsing slowly like a heartbeat. Rull felt the pressure again, the same presence he had sensed before, something old, powerful, and aware. The soldiers around him gripped their weapons tight, unsure if they should move closer or run. The unknown ship lowered itself toward the chamber, releasing soft pulses of energy that drifted through the air like shimmering clouds. The lights on the pillar responded, brightening, twisting, forming shapes that looked almost like moving symbols. The ground trembled lightly beneath their boots. The blue pulsing sped up. Commander, one soldier whispered, this thing. It's waking up. Rill took a steady breath. Stay calm, no one fires unless I give the order. He moved forward slowly, each step echoing in the silent valley. The unknown ship watched, floating silently, almost like a guardian. As Rill reached the edge of the chamber, the pillar shifted, its surface unfolding like petals of metal. Inside was a smaller core, smooth, glowing, and shaped like a sphere. The sphere lifted from the pillar and hovered above the chamber floor. A wave of pressure hit the humans, not painful, but overwhelming. It felt like a presence touching their minds, searching, observing. Several soldiers flinched, lowering their weapons slightly. Rill held his ground, staring at the sphere. It pulsed once, then again, matching the smaller ship's rhythm. The unknown ship answered with a soft, rising hum. The two pulses aligned into a single pattern. Rill realized they were communicating, speaking in a language made of energy and rhythm. What is it doing? A soldier asked. Rill shook his head. I think it's deciding something. The sphere flashed, releasing a burst of blue light that rushed into the air. For a moment, the soldiers shielded their eyes, expecting heat or force. But the light passed through them harmlessly, leaving a faint tingling in their skin. When they opened their eyes again, the sphere had changed. Patterns of glowing white now ran through it, forming lines that looked almost like a map, star systems, pathways, routes across deep space. Rill stared, confused. The sphere floated slowly toward him, stopping only a meter away. It pulsed again, softer, slower, almost gentle. The unknown ship lowered its nose slightly, as if encouraging him to accept something. Rill hesitated. Why me? He whispered. The sphere pulsed in response, this time sending a flicker of images into his mind. He saw flashes of stars collapsing, fleets burning, worlds screaming under the weight of something massive and terrifying. He felt fear that was not his own. He saw darkness spreading across galaxies, swallowing civilizations like sparks blown out by wind. The images vanished as quickly as they came, leaving him breathless. The soldiers looked at him nervously. Commander? Are you all right? Rill nodded slowly. I think. It showed me something. A threat. He looked at the sphere again. The glowing pathways on its surface converged into a single point, far beyond human territory. A distant, unknown region. A place where the darkness came from. The message was clear. Something dangerous was moving through the universe, something the ancient ships were trying to escape or warn others about. The unknown ship pulsed again, drawing their attention. Its hull flickered, and symbols appeared along its sides, patterns similar to those on the pillar. Then the craft tilted upward, ready to leave. But before it rose, it emitted one final pulse toward Rill and the flotilla above. The pulse carried weight, meaning, almost like a spoken phrase. Rill felt it inside his chest, in the same place one feels a strong heartbeat. A warning. A request. A call for preparation. Then the unknown ship shot into the sky, disappearing into the atmosphere like a streak of black lightning. Within seconds, it was gone. The chamber below dimmed. The sphere slowed its pulsing and drifted toward Rill again. He reached out, and the sphere moved into his hands, surprisingly light for its size. The markings on its surface shifted slowly, like a living star map waiting for a navigator. The soldiers gathered around him, staring at the object. Sir, what do we do now? One asked quietly. Rill looked at the glowing sphere. He felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders like armor. He knew the Empire could not ignore this. Humanity could not afford to wait for the darkness he saw. The ancient ship and its scout were not enemies, they were messengers. Guides. Maybe the last survivors of something far greater. We take this back to the fleet, Rill said. We study it. We learn everything we can. He looked up at the sky where the unknown ship had vanished. And we prepare, he whispered. Whatever is coming. Humanity will not face it blind. The chamber's lights faded completely, leaving only the soft glow of the sphere in Rill's hands. The soldiers followed him out of the valley, quiet and shaken. Above them, the flotilla waited. And far beyond the stars, something ancient and dark began to move. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer alone. And something was coming. The return to orbit felt heavier than the descent. Commander Rill held the glowing sphere in both hands as the landing craft rose through the clouds. No one spoke during the climb. Even the soldiers who usually joked after missions remained silent, stealing nervous glances at the object. The sphere pulsed softly, steady and calm, as if it understood the humans were taking it somewhere safe. But Roll did not feel safe. Every thrum of light reminded him of the images he had seen: burning skies, collapsing stars, and a shadow spreading across the void. When the craft reached the flotilla, the crew stepped back as Roll walked down the ramp with the sphere. The entire room went quiet. Engineers, officers, and technicians stared like they were seeing something sacred or forbidden. The moment the sphere crossed the threshold of the ship, the air felt slightly colder, like the vessel itself sensed the power carried inside. Roll went straight to the bridge. As he entered, officers stood at attention, eyes fixed on the object. The main screen showed an Airs 4 turning slowly below them, calm and unaware of the danger hiding beneath its forests. Roll set the sphere on a secure pedestal where scanners could reach it. The device hovered a few centimeters above the surface on its own, shining faintly. The sensor chief stepped forward carefully. "Commander, we've never seen anything like this. Its energy signature is stable, but complex. It is reacting to everything around it." "Reacting in what way?" Roll asked. "Like it's listening," the chief said softly. Before Roll could ask more, the sphere released a gentle pulse. The bridge lights flickered once, just a quick, soft dimming, and then returned to normal. The equipment screens displayed new symbols, glowing white lines forming patterns similar to those on the pillar. They looked like maps layered over each other. Routes. Coordinates. Warnings. The officers gasped quietly. "It's communicating again," the tech officer whispered. "But not like before. It's using our systems to show us something." More symbols appeared, forming a large cluster in the center. They represented star systems far outside the Empire's known borders. Far beyond anything mapped. "It's a region of space," Roll said. "But why show us this?" The sphere pulsed again, and the image changed. Some of the star systems dimmed into red color. Others darkened completely. One by one, more systems turned black, dead stars, lifeless worlds. Lines connecting them shrank as if being erased. The bridge fell silent. "It's showing destruction," someone said quietly. Roll felt the same cold weight return to his chest. "It's showing us where the darkness already passed." Another pulse. This time, the map zoomed outward, revealing a vast area of space. In the center of the dark zone, a shape appeared, not clear, not detailed, but unmistakably large. Something that did not look like a ship or a planet. Something bigger. Something alive. The shape flickered and vanished. The sphere dimmed as if exhausted. Everyone stared at Roll, waiting for him to speak, wanting reassurance he could not give. He looked at the sensor chief. "Record everything." "Yes, sir." "Prepare a secure data link to High Command. They need to see this." "Understood." As officers moved to carry out the order, the sphere brightened again without warning. Lines of light stretched across the bridge, forming a new image. This time, it was closer to home, much closer. The map zoomed through star systems until it reached the Empire's territory. It passed over military bases, trade routes, research outposts. Then it stopped. A single human world glowed on the display. Roll felt his heart freeze. One of the Empire's core planets. A world of billions. A world completely unprepared. "Why that planet?" an officer whispered. The sphere pulsed slowly, almost sadly. It projected a final set of symbols, patterns that resembled the rhythm of earlier signals. But this time the pulse felt different. Less like a warning, more like a plea. "It's telling us where the darkness will go next," Roll said. "Or where it will start." Before anyone could react, the sphere dimmed completely, its glow fading to a soft white. It had given them everything it could. Alarms suddenly echoed through the ship. A calm officer turned sharply. "Commander. Long-range sensors have picked up a new signal." Roll's blood ran cold. "Is it the unknown ship?" "No, sir," the officer said, her voice shaking. "It's bigger." "Bigger?" Roll repeated. The officer swallowed hard. "Much bigger." The main screen shifted to show a distant point in space. A massive disturbance warped the stars, bending light like a lens. The signature resembled the energy pattern left behind by the ancient ship, but amplified 1,000 times over. The entire flotilla went silent. Roll stared at the distortion. His voice was calm, but his hands tightened behind his back. "Open a channel to all Imperial fleets," he said quietly. "Tell them we need full mobilization. Now." He turned toward the sphere, still faintly glowing. Humanity has been warned, he whispered, now it must choose how to respond. Outside the ship, the stars trembled with the arrival of something vast and ancient taking shape in the dark. Something coming. Something the ancient ship had tried to outrun. Something now heading straight for human space.